caught to the cloud. All right, well, welcome everybody. We've got a nice small group of people this morning, and I'm really so excited to catch up with Nicky to see where she's at. As you know, Nicky coached with me for a while, and I've just watched her phenomenal, amazing rise as she found her purpose and just really empowered herself to do what she felt she needed to do. And so, Nicky, it's going to be such a lovely ride this morning, hearing of the steps that you took and, you know, how you felt, all of the elements that went into creating the business that you've got today, which is just mind-blowing. So it's such a pleasure and such a joy to have you here this morning. And I'm hoping we're just going to have a beautiful time of connection and a time where we can explore together what works for people today, especially in the current situation that we're in. So going back, Nicky got hold of me, I don't know, maybe a year ago, sent me a message, said she wanted to coach, and in walked this gorgeous girl. I was like, what on earth does this lady need to do any coaching? She seemed confident and together and really in a space where most people would want to be. She has presence, she takes up space in a room because that energy is just so palpable from her. And I'm not going to give anything away. Nicky's going to share her story, and then there's going to be some time for questions. So if you want to ask some questions, write them down at the end. I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask them of Nicky. And let's see where this magic carpet ride takes us today. So Nicky, thank you for agreeing to this. I know I kind of nagged you a bit because I really feel when a woman rises the way that you have, we want to know, we want to share, we want to experience with you the story that you've just lived through and find out what it was that created this incredible space, this mark that you're making on the world, this impact that you are creating, which is just wonderful to observe. So that all said, I'm going to hand over to Nicky. Welcome, Nicky.
Awesome. Thank you, Cher, and thank you so much for having me today. It is such a privilege and such an honor. Firstly, to coach with you is like just an honor, and to be here with all of you today is a privilege. And I'd love to share my journey with you and how Sharon helped me get there as well.
We're so excited to hear. Let's go.
So basically my journey started a while back. I used to be a dentist, and I had success, and I had everything that most people, or that the world thinks is success, and I looked good from the outside, but I felt so unfulfilled, and I felt empty, and there was this constant dissatisfaction. And I used to go to work on a Monday morning thinking, oh my word, like I'll actually think myself sick just to not have to go to work. And it wasn't because I didn't like what I was doing. I loved my patients, and I loved the practice, and I loved the business part of it. But I had this feeling that I was meant for more. Anyways, long story short, I ended up getting sick, and I had to go for some tests. I had a tremor in my hand, and the doctor came back to me saying, it looks like it could be MS. And driving back from that appointment that day, I was like, oh my word, if this is the last day on earth, would I be proud? Would I be happy? Would I be satisfied to go? And everything in me said no. Like, no, this is not who you want to be. This is not where you want to go with your life. And that set me on this journey to become like wildly well, inside and outside. And I went on this journey, and Darren and I decided to move from Joburg, since I couldn't work anymore as a dentist, decided to move from Joburg to Ballito. And all of a sudden I found myself with 3 little kids, waking up in the morning, and I had no purpose. I was used to working like a maniac till all hours. And there I was, had no purpose, 3 little kids to look after in a new city, no friends. And I remember sitting going like, God, who am I? Like, all I know is Nicky the mom, or Nicky the dentist, or Nicky the wife, or Nicky the friend, but who is Nicky? And I went through this whole big struggle trying to find my purpose. And I knew, like, God created me for some reason. Like, I'm here for something. So what is that something? And I knew inside that I wanted better, but I didn't know what better was. And I mean, when you say to people, I want a better life, and they look at your life from the outside, they're like, but you have everything. How can you be so ungrateful for what you've got? But I came to realize that better was really relative to purpose. It was not a feeling, it was more a foundation. It wasn't necessarily going higher, it was going deeper. And coming to the point where I was uncovering parts of myself. And then I realized that my purpose was to become the woman who I was created to be. And so that's how my whole journey started. And I went for coaching with you. It took me a long while to realize that I needed coaching, because you think you can do these things on your own. But yes, so that's my journey in a nutshell. And from stepping into my purpose and just keeping, like, I keep moving, not really knowing where it's going to go, you kind of create the path. There's like that saying, the path is made by walking, not by waiting. And so in the last year or so, from just walking my path, it's unfolded in front of me, and it's taken me on some detours, and it's taken me through some beautiful parts, and it's taken me through some ups and some downs. But that is my story in a nutshell.
Wow. I love all the, the ideas that you had about it looked beautiful on the outside, but inside you knew there was something more, and that to me is a word called fulfillment. You can have all the bells and whistles, but how are you feeling on a daily basis? When the bullets start flying, as they do, are you ready and prepared to say, okay, cool, it's happening exterior, on the outside of me, what's going on the inside of me? And you can pretty much take anything that comes your way. Initially it knocks you, but then you've got this inner reserve and this stoicism. It's an ancient Greek word that the philosophers used, stoicism, this resilience, this emotional resilience, So Nicky, what I'd love to ask you is, was there a defining time? Was there a moment that you thought, okay, this is it. I have to find, seek, reach out? Was there a time? And how do you, if you had to backtrack and follow the breadcrumb trail, what was that led up to that defining time, if there was one?
Oh, there were so many small defining times, like when I got sick, when I was last year without purpose. But I was reading a book, The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. And it is all about living your best life and like living into your potential. And in there, he talks about the 4 internal empires: your mindset, health set, heart set, and soul set. And that all those things need to be healthy and happy and in a good space for you to be able to live the life that you truly want. And that resonated with me because I had the one part, the outside part, the mindset part, the success part, but other parts of me were unfulfilled. Other parts of me were forgotten. And when I read that, I was like, oh my word, like, I need help. I need help to uncover the parts that I've forgotten, that I've chosen to forget. I need help to uncover what I thought society wanted me to be, versus who I truly wanted to be. And that's when I went on this quest, and I was reading book after book about personal development. And I think at the beginning of that year, when I got hold of you, I think I was doing some Bible study, and something came up along the lines of, like, I'm going to open places and spaces for your favor, but you need to live a life worthy of your calling. And that really was like, how am I going to find my calling? Before I can find my calling, I need to find me. I need to know who am I on the inside to face whatever may come my way, to be prepared to whoever I need to serve, or so that's basically, it was that moment, reading that specific book changed my life. Then I realized I'm not going to be able to do this alone.
So what was the like the leap? I kind of feel we build up to something, but there's a leap that we take right at that final, to jump over the finish line, to make the decision, to put up your hand, to reach out, to make the call. What was that thing that drove you to say, okay, cool, now this is it, I have to make this change?
That's a good one. I don't know, it was this internal thing that I thought I knew who I was, but I knew there were parts of me that I didn't know. And it was almost like I didn't want to settle for mediocre anymore. I wanted to live this life that truly set my soul on fire, and I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know where to even start to set my soul on fire. To start a business is easy. To maintain friendships that's a relative easy thing to do. But to live a life that is truly on fire, where your soul is alive, where you are alive, where you are giving everything within you because your cup is full and it's running out, that's what I was after.
I love that. You wanted to make sure your soul was on fire. I really love that. So, hearing you say all of those things, it's sort of becoming very clear to me that there was an internal, like a prompting, like a nudge, that you maybe ignored for a while, would you say? So just going through the motions of day by day, getting up and doing the same old, which is not wrong in itself. But if there's no inspiration that comes through, then there's really nothing that will, feel like you've got a fire inside of you. So can you sort of go back and maybe remind us, or tell us, and maybe remind me, when you felt that fire, like what was it that you heard or that you felt that was like, oh my word, that waking up kind of feeling? When did that happen? And do you have an idea of how it happened for you?
I don't know exactly what happened or how it happened. I can't remember exactly, but I do know that all along I thought, like a lot of people that I come into contact with, something's missing, but you don't even know that there's something missing. You think everybody feels the way you do, and everybody is just satisfied with the life that they live, and you forget that you've got a choice. And maybe that was it. Maybe I realized, actually, I have a choice. And because I actually remember coming to you in my first words, you asked me in our discovery session, why are you here? And I said, I want to learn how to step into my greatness, or something along those lines. And I think it was the moment I realized I had a choice. Like, my life was the way it was because I chose for it to be that way. But now I get to choose a different way, a different route, a different way of doing things, a different perspective, a new lease on life when you choose to have that.
So I'm really quite curious, with what you've just said now, because what I've seen in my 38 years of coaching is that, there's this little alignment that sort of happens, like it is what you want, and you think it's what you want, and then you get into what you think it is that you want, and you feel completely overwhelmed. It's like, oh, I didn't know it was this hard or this complicated. So did you have any of those moments where it was like, yay, 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 oh my word, like, deer with the eyes in the headlights kind of thing? Can you remember any of those times? Because I think it's so helpful for people to hear that.
Yeah, no, there were too many of those times, but I think specifically, I remember a period where I was going through work with you, and it was actually, I think, before I started with you, where I was doing the stuff by myself, and I was uncovering parts of me, And I love that, because all of a sudden there was a new awareness, there were new insights around who I am, who I want to be, how I've been portraying myself, or maybe not standing in my truth. And then I felt so lost. Then I was like, oh my word, I've unraveled all of this. Now, who am I? And that was one of those moments where I was like, I think my husband used to think that I'm a lucky packet, because he didn't know what he was doing every morning. Because some mornings I was like, yay, like praise be, today is an amazing day. I know who I am and I'm standing in my truth. And then other days were like, who am I? I'm so lost. I don't have direction. I don't have purpose. I've uncovered these ugly parts of me, or the parts that I thought were ugly, and I don't like what I'm seeing. And so, yeah, standing and like looking in the mirror and accepting the truth about yourself and choosing to love all the parts that you've forgotten. I think those were times when I felt like a deer in the headlights.
Wow.
Other than just also then like going through my journey, where my business has been, like how it's grown, where I felt overwhelmed because I wasn't really ready or prepared to do the things that I started doing, but I knew I just needed to keep walking. And as I said to you earlier, making the mistakes, the learnings, but making too many of them.
Yeah. So now I really feel it would be a lovely opportunity to talk about, what you were introduced through with the coaching, with the 3 principles, and understanding that your life finds you, and that there is something that's so perfectly unique to you. And that if you keep following what you talk about, you said you make the path and you just keep putting the foot in front of the other, and more gets revealed to you. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about that. Was there that time where you realized, oh, wow, this is what it is that I'm supposed to do? How did the work of the 3 principles that I use in the coaching affect you?
That changed my life, because I realized that I could stop doing and start being. I realized that there is abundance, everything is there, and it'll come to you at the exact right moment, not a moment before or a moment after. You will find the answers at the exact right moment, because when you become still and you just let life take you, let God or universe or spirit, whatever you may call it, like if you tap into him, you get downloads that come through you and not from you. Again, what you always say to me. And that thoughts are things, like the thoughts, the perspectives, the ideas that you have are only things, and that you get to question them. You get to change it around if you want. You don't have to believe something just because you think it should be that way. The way you think your life will turn out is probably the way your life will turn out. But if you just let go and just stay in alignment and become still and listen to your inner voice, and become conscious of the choices you make, and conscious and aware of what's going on around you, and be in that moment, every moment, from moment to moment, that's when your life unfolds. That's where the beauty is. That's the sweet spot, is where you let go of the wheel, where you let go of control, and you know that I just need to keep moving. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I just need to keep moving, because there is a path and there is a purpose, and there is everything that's good is available to you.
Beautiful. So most people believe, or have been sort of educated to believe, that what you see out there is your experience of life. You look out and you see all of these reflections, you know, relationships, spirituality, abundance, work, you know, all of those things, family, social, and they think that's the thing that creates the feeling inside of them. What did you learn through the coaching and the 3 principles, if I express that to you in that way?
That nothing from the outside can, let me put it this way, that life is an inside out game. Like whatever happens or whatever you want to happen on the outside needs to start from the inside, not the way we've been taught from the outside in, finding fulfillment in other things, finding fulfillment in success or in money or in business or in friendships or in relationships. It's literally finding it from the inside out. And the way that you look at life, the lens that you use to look at life is ultimately the experience that you're going to have.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, captured it beautifully. Yeah. So I'm feeling right now that where you're at is like, you know, you're leaping at the moment, leaps and bounds with your career. You wrote a book, you've published it, amazing. You've got some programs going on, absolutely incredible. Would you say that there is this fulfillment? Now, what are you seeing fresh for yourself in that career that you used to have as a dentist and the career that you've got now as a coach? You know, what are you seeing different in terms of fulfillment and abundance and life and perspective?
I think the difference is, firstly, I used to find my identity in other places, in other things, in success, but really not, it was never an inside out game. It was really never to bring out the best in me. It was to feel better about myself. Whereas now it's, my soul is on fire when I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. When this journey to find out who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing has been a hard one. It's been the hardest thing I've ever had to do. But it's been the most freeing, most fulfilling, most exciting experience of my life. Because every time that I'm in front of somebody and every time that there's breakthrough and when it runs through me and not from me, it is just the most beautiful thing to watch. It's so beautiful to see how people become inspired by the gifts and the talents and the dreams that was placed within them. And when they uncover that, the pure joy that comes with that. So yes, I have fulfillment now. I choose to look at life differently. I choose to know that I'm at the right place at the right time every time.
Wow, that's beautiful. So what I'm hearing you say very definitely, the change is that before you might have been pushing, you know, we push, we drive, we strive, you know, it's this. And when we can let go, that what you spoke about earlier, you know, kind of go with the flow, it feels like we are being pulled, you know, rather than pushing, we are being pulled, we are being guided all the time. And you spoke earlier about all of those mindsets that you read in Robin Sharma's book, you know, the mindset, the soul set, etc. And I like to call it your primary foods. If you look at a plate of food and you've got all the food in the middle, all of that's good and well. You could be the healthiest consumer of good food, but outside, the primary foods are spirituality, you know, love, forgiveness, harmony, peace, stillness, quiet. Those are the primary things that if you engage with those things first, you'll probably have a much better outcome in your life. And the other thing I'm hearing you say is that there is an up and down, and that's normal and natural. We tend to, from where we've come from, fight when we're down and be elated when we're up. And the way to really see that, from what I'm hearing you say, and what I feel you really got from the coaching too, is that when you're down, it's okay. It's not something that's abnormal. It's completely normal. It's to recognize that and allow yourself the time to get back up there, because you will. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here today. So it's kind of like a heartbeat. It is up and down, and just accept where you're at rather than fight it, because that's in a state of resistance. So I'd love for you to sort of give us a little bit of insight on how you particularly found little stepping stones through the coaching. You know, what were those things that were like aha moments for you? Do you have any of those?
Oh, yes, that's a good one. There's so many of those.
Give us a few.
I think for me, it was the 3 principles. Am I answering it correctly? That's what you're asking.
I want to hear what comes from you. Yeah.
For me, it was the 3 principles and realizing exactly what you're saying, the striving, the fighting it, the hard work, the doing, and versus just letting go and just being, like be who you were created to be. So for me, that was an amazing journey through the 3 principles and understanding that there's this thing so much bigger than you. There's this life out there so much bigger than you. And you're just this tiny little speck, but that tiny little speck is still important in the bigger puzzle, as you always say it. Like, it needs to find its place so that all the other puzzle pieces can slot into it. So that was amazing to me, and realizing thoughts that I have, or society, but I have started believing about myself and how things should be done, and learning that I can get rid of the I shoulds. I should anymore. I don't need to I should anymore. So getting rid of all the shoulds and must and I have to, versus just I am. And when it is a low, to just acknowledge it, accept it, say to yourself, I am this, whatever it may be, blank, and know that the next moment will be different.
So beautiful. The way that you're speaking, if I reflect back to when I first met you, there's such a gentleness about what you're saying. You know, there's this softness, there's this stillness, there's this calm. And for me, calm really is a superpower. It really is, because you can't create from a busy mind. It's not possible thinking that you can outthink the story you made up in the beginning, which wasn't true anyway, and living according to the story, and then beating yourself up because you didn't live according to the story that you made up in the first place. And so, you know, we come with our stories, and some of it's true and some of it's not. And to identify and discern for yourself, no, that is not really the thought I'm having. That's not the truth. This idea that I'm not good enough is not the truth, because you're born good enough. There's not a lot that you have to get out there. It's all in here. Will you grow? Will you skill up? Will you get knowledge? Absolutely. But it's in that flow of life, rather than like, oh, they're doing it, let me do it. I'm meant to do this. And then doing that, and you're saying you've made a few mistakes, and I don't call them mistakes, I call them learning curves.
Yeah.
But buying into that external idea again of that's how people said I must do it, so I better do it that way, forgetting yourself, which is something you opened up with. Who am I? What is my little piece of the puzzle in that bigger scheme of things? What is that piece? Not all the others. And when I get mine aligned, then, oh, wow, it's just like life becomes this beautiful journey and adventure. There's so much freedom in that. So could you give us, maybe just to sort of conclude, and then we can open up for some questions. I mean, this is everyone's opportunity just to ask Nicky some questions, or me, or whatever. And, you know, let's adventure and explore together. Could you sort of conclude to us, if you look from the inside out at your life now, through that lens, through those lenses that you have on now, you know, do you see And I'm not asking you, to give me the full picture. Just, do you see fulfillment? Do you see the abundance? Do you see the flow? Do you see life opening up for you way more than you used to? That, I think, would be the key most people would want to know.
Yes, definitely. I think when you turn inward, which is an art in society, the way that we've been brought up and indoctrinated to always turn outward for all these things to make us feel better and acceptable and loved and enough. But when you turn inward and you uncover these parts of yourself, you almost have a new understanding and a new, like with it comes a grace and a love and an acceptance almost. And when you have that, that's when you see life differently. That's when you see people differently. That's when you understand that somebody's journey is not your journey, and that you cannot fix somebody or something. They need to do that for themselves. They need to go on that journey to have grace with themselves and to love all of their beautiful parts, and to accept who they are. Because with that acceptance, you start accepting circumstance, you start accepting people, you start accepting certain like stories or things that have happened to you. And I think, like I've seen with some of my clients, your mess becomes your message, and you can really, like, you can inspire people through just being who you were truly born to be, through turning inwards and understanding yourself and living from that place of raw authenticity.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So just to close from my side before we open for questions, is what I hear there very, very definitely is that all of the situations and circumstances that are coming at you are so important in the education of what it is that you are meant to be and the purpose that you are meant to fulfill. So it's kind of your refinement. They talk about the phoenix in the fire, and it feels very painful at times. And I remember one day saying to God, I don't think I signed up for this. I'm done. Can I actually graduate now? Thank you very much. But there's a constant recommitment every day. There's a constant journey to take every single day. Whether that journey means that you've got to be sitting quiet and still or creating something new. It's in the place that you feel inside of you that comes, not from others. Will we learn from them? Absolutely. Guidance from them? Yes, for sure. And then we've got to take it and synthesize it for ourselves and see, where do we fit in this whole jigsaw puzzle? Yeah.
Really sitting and finding that alignment within you, where everything just like lines up and you're like, yes. I always just get that moment where I feel, yes.
And there's your key. It's the feeling, isn't it? It's not the words. It's not the books. It's not the people. It's the feeling. And if you're not taking the time to be still and quiet, as frequently as you feel you need to. Like, what's the red flag when you're hurrying up? It's got to quick. Can I just quick and hurry? And all of that are red flags for you to notice that you are trying to do something so against what the flow is. And, sports people talk about that all the time. They hardly knew the time. They hardly knew what was happening. It was just, they were just going with it. And they had this incredible experience of just loving every moment. And the end result wasn't actually the end result. It wasn't the goal. It wasn't the achievement. It was how they felt while they were in it. Because after all, we're all going to die with our inbox full.
Yeah.
You're not going to get through all the emails. You're not going to finish all the projects. You're not going to, whatever, fill in the blank. Yeah. There's going to be a lot. So just do what's in front of you to do, because if you do that, you are so in the flow of life. And yeah, it is a bit of an art. It's an art because we have come so far from who we really are. So we have to, and art is something that evolves and opens up as you go along. It is so natural to be that way. And we've normalized the way not to be stressed and strained and pushing and striving. And I am so glad that I get to see people like you and to tap people like you on the shoulder and to watch as you wake up to your own magnificence, Nikki. That's
Thank
just
you.
beautiful. Thank you for your beautiful, beautiful share.
Thank you for
Yeah,
the work you do, and thank you for the way that you touch lives and
yeah.
change lives.
Yeah, it's when I meet gems like you and these people on this call. It's for me, if there was one that I did that in my entire lifetime, it would be absolutely worth it. And I mean that. I used to just say that before, but I really mean that now, because it's kind of like my work is done. Every day my work is done, and I get to sit back and just watch it coming at me. And as it comes, so I just show up, keep showing up, and you get the answer you need. Not a moment before, not a moment after, exactly when you need it. Yeah.
Yes, it's the truth.
Okay.
I just wanted to add to that, the striving thing. I think there's always this internal struggle in your head, like it's the chit 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 chit. You take the time to be still, to turn inward, and with that I don't mean you have to go sit in a still quiet room, even to just go to internalize and to ask yourself, what is it that I'm feeling? Who is it that I'm being? Who is it that I want to be? And to get rid of the stuff that doesn't matter, the stuff that makes you feel overwhelmed, the stuff that makes you feel inadequate, the stuff that makes you feel like you aren't enough, and to just show up fully as you in that moment, and to know that when you're doing that, that's when you are stepping into your purpose, because you're showing up fully in that moment to whoever it may be in front of you, or to whatever the situation may be that's in front of you. And that's when all that talk in your head disappears, and you find that moment when you go, yes, just yes.
And it doesn't disappear forever. It comes back every now and again, and that's okay. But now you get to recognize it. You get to notice it. And if there's one thing that you take out of this call today, everyone, just one thing, just notice. Just notice when that little, speech bubble in your head is like, oh, are you really? Do you think you're good enough? You can do this? All of those second guessing, suppressing kind of ideas that the world forces on us in an attempt to create fear in us so that we buy into, strive, all of those kind of things. And it's just so unnecessary. There's so much freedom in that. And there's this beautiful thing in the Bible that I absolutely love. And it's the peace that passes all understanding. And I had a huge thing happen in my life last Tuesday with my son. And there was a moment where it was so peaceful and so quiet through a hectic health diagnosis that he got. Hectic. And I was like, it's not up to me. It's not required of me to do anything in this situation except to love and to care. But I definitely cannot carry. My arms are not big enough for this. And that handing over in grace is probably the greatest peace you could ever, ever, ever uncover for yourself. And it's there 24/7, 365 for the rest of your life. Isn't that beautiful? What a lovely thing to know. Yeah. Okay. So come on, people, give us some questions. You don't have to put your camera on if you're still in your PJs. We understand. But if you want to type the questions or ask the questions or make a comment, I'd love to hear. Okay, so Dee's raised her hand. Dee, just unmute yourself and go for it.
Thank you so much, Shia. I just want to say thank you to you and Nikki. That was so, so wonderful and so powerful. Just a question for Nikki. She mentioned that she used to feel like something is missing in her old life. I would just love to know, how did she know that the shift was happening and she was going towards her greatness, as she says? And what was she feeling during that time? Just how was the shift for her? I would love to know.
I don't think it was that's a good question, by the way. But I don't think it was a moment. It was that feeling. It was that every time I was doing something, I was getting that feeling of inspiration, the feeling of feeling alive for the first time in so long. Like I had this little flame that became this wildfire that I couldn't control. I didn't know how to contain the joy and the excitement and the newfound grace that I had. I think that was every time that I'm doing something that I feel is fulfilling me. That's the feeling I get, where I am alive, where I'm on fire, where I can feel a peace and an excitement at the same time.
Gorgeous. I love how you said that, a peace and an excitement, because that's what it is. It's like this wild child inside of you, but there's this absolute understanding that it's right. So it's not that hectic, frenetic, wow kind of excitement. It's that calming excitement, like I can't wait to get into this next part of this journey and take that step. Yeah, I love that.
Anticipation.
Anticipation, beautiful word. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dee. Anything else from you? Does that answer your question?
But yeah, that was beautiful. And it's so true. It's when you, exactly that is when you feel at peace and excited at the same time, when you just happy and happiness is bubbling out of you. I love that.
Awesome. Thank you, Dee. Anyone else want to ask a question? Raise their hand. Anyone
Can I
else?
ask a question, Sharon?
Yes, please, Janine, go ahead.
Nikki, you mentioned the 3 principles. You mentioned it quite a few times. Do you mind elaborating on those principles?
Ooh. Can I give that to Sharon to do? Explain it so much better than me.
Yeah, just briefly.
Okay, so the 3 principles is a body of work that is like a truth. And it was uncovered by a man named Sydney Banks, and it's the premise for all of my coaching. So it's what I base everything around. So thought is just thought. It's not real. There's the 3 principles. Number 1 is thought. It's not real. Thoughts are just thoughts. It's a wonderful privilege to have thoughts, but very often those thoughts are not real. The second part is consciousness. So consciousness is awareness. It gives rise to your thoughts. So it's the creator. It's the thing that you can be aware of to make what you thought about come to life, as long as it feels like the third principle, which is mind, you're tapping into that spirit, into that guidance, into the flow. So it's basically the mind of our universal mind, impersonal mind, not personal mind, Sharon, the persona, Sharon, the internal part of me, the real Nikki, the real, Dee, the real Darren, the real Susan, the real Janine. Not the one you show to the world that you think you're supposed to, but the one that you really are inside. When you tap into that, there's nothing that is not available. It's the infinite creative potential of everything. So if there's something you want to create, if you think about it and you are aware of it, thought and consciousness, and you tap into it, flow and alignments, it's unbelievable what can explode out of you every day. And sometimes it's to be quiet, and sometimes it's to step up, and sometimes it's to relax, and sometimes it's to, get going. It's that part. So just on that, I've got a coaching program now that Nicky will definitely be a part of. And it's a 3 principles coaching program. And we'll talk about that later if you want to, those that want to hear. But yeah, we're going to be doing that one of these days soon. So does that help you? Does that allow you to understand, Janine?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you, Sharon.
Lovely. Anybody else? I'd love to hear Darren's perspective on what he observed through his beautiful wife. I can see him beaming there. He's beaming at how amazing your wife is. She always was amazing, but obviously just incredibly, amazingly, beautifully now.
She sure was, and she sure is. How you, Sharon?
Hi, Darren.
Yeah,
So,
it's been a long journey, but it's been worth it, I guess. Well, not I guess,
yeah.
it has been worth it. Certain ups and downs, but I'd like to say end result, but I don't think it's ever an end result. I think it's just a continuous journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing to see where she was, where she is now, the fulfillment that she's reaping, and how we experiencing it through her as well. So it's really awesome.
Oh my goodness. I mean, to get that perspective, people, I mean, thank you, Darren. We always hear that side, but it's so lovely to get that perspective and the lens you were looking through and what you've seen. What would you say has been her biggest shift or change that you've noticed, Darren? Do you have one or two of those that you could share with us? It would be so helpful for us.
I think sure. There's so much more peace, and a fulfillment, in doing what she's doing. There's no need for the rush and the push and the stress and the strive anymore. It's a case of, I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm getting joy from what I'm doing, and it never means it's not going to be hard work, but the hard work is now worth it. Because of the fulfillment that you get out of what you're doing. I think it ends up not being seen as hard work, but rather as a purpose now. And I think there's just a peace in Nicky now that she doesn't need to do anything for anyone else. I think that's one of the biggest things now. There's no need to impress anybody else. If this fulfills me, this is what I'm going to do. If this isn't going to bring me joy, I'm out.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
sure, Darren.
that I'd say.
Yeah. So that's a beautiful reflection. Thank you. How do you feel when you hear that, Nicky?
Oh, he's so nice. He's my
Checks in the post.
To hear that from their perspective, or from his perspective, because obviously the people closest to you experience all the ups and downs, and they experience the unfiltered parts of you. So it is nice to know that there's some peace and joy and purpose, and that I bring.
It is such a privilege today. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but to have this dual perspective from both of you, it's just such a joy. And thank you, for being so open to sharing that. I mean, what you can give to people is so spectacular, as a couple. So really, what a joy to have you here as well, Darren. Thank you. And I miss you, by the way.
I was just going to say that to you.
I see Nicky, she comes for a top up, but I really miss you. And it's just so beautiful to see how the two of you are evolving into this beautiful, beautiful space that you have. So yeah, and Dee's saying, and Dee, I so agree with you. She says, what a powerful place to be. That Darren said, if this doesn't bring me joy, then I'm out. I think you should make that your logo, Darren.
I'll certainly consider that.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Sharon, can I ask another question?
Yes,
sure,
please do.
So you were saying, it's a red flag if you like hurry, quick, going against the flow. It's easy to say if it doesn't bring you joy, I'm out. But I'm back in the corporate world right now, and the company that I'm currently working for is all about quick, rush. There's no peace in the office environment at all. Obviously, I've learned a lot throughout my life, and I know how to bring peace into my own state of mind. But it's quite challenging when you're surrounded by that every day. You kind of get sucked into that negativity. So even with everything I've learned, I still feel like anxiety. I'm short with people, and I know that's not who I am. That's not my essence. So. And I do feel like I'm in a state of resistance. So what advice, both Nicky and Sharon, would you give to someone like me that can't just go, well, it doesn't bring me joy, I'm out. This is the situation that I'm in currently. How can I make it work for me?
Oh, Nicky, answer that one, because you've been where Janine is. answer that one and I'll jump in at the end.
I think for me, what I would tell you is to really go deep, to turn inward and to either change the way you look at things or change the thing. But for me, it is finding the joy within myself, finding the purpose within myself in that moment, and knowing that this is a season of your life, and accepting the season for what it is if you can't get out, but changing internally the way you think, the way you feel, what parts of yourself, what part of God you tap into to bring that fulfillment, that peace, the quiet. And instead of getting upset or getting anxious about it, to just be in it, to acknowledge it, and to move to take the next step forward. Applying the 3 principles, I'm sure Sharon's going to give you some deep rooted answers around the principles, but applying the principles in these situations where you are out of control of your actual outside situation.
Yeah, and what you said, everything, 100% true. It's to really see that it's not about what's going on outside, that nobody has the ability to create any emotion inside you unless you decide that it does. And that's the key. Like, I see the chaos going on, I notice it. Even last Tuesday, I got the diagnosis temporarily. There was shock. And then there was this peace. I could have gone in there guns blazing to my son, are you doing this? And go and do that. And I said, you've got your own wisdom. And you, Janine, have got your own wisdom. It's for you to see what's going on in the rush of the office and to take one moment, one thought away from making that change and say to yourself, I notice it, I observe it, and that does not have the ability to infiltrate who I am because my core is strong. And that doesn't come because you just made the decision. You've got to make the decision over and over and over again, and you've got to practice that. It is natural for you to do that. Unfortunately, the normal has now become the acceptance of this rushed, frenetic life, which is all, sorry to say, bullshit. It's just crap. It's not meant to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. So the culture of the company that you're in has got into the habit of rushing everybody, thinking and believing, often in their innocence, that that's the way to achieve. And I'm here to tell you that that's nonsense. The way to achieve is to come from a calm space. Yes. That's where you become way more creative and way more clever. You basically get stupid when you are in your busy mind. You cannot create from that space. You cannot. You will half-heartedly, and it won't be as good as it could be. If you experience this and you experiment with it and you try it for yourself, you'll notice for yourself, number one, notice that, wow, everyone else is in that state, but I can be in a calm. And you might be there briefly today and tomorrow a bit more, and the next day a bit more, and the next day a bit more. That's the way that it starts to show itself to you because it is built into you. It's not something you have to go get the skill for. As soon as you make that decision that that is who I am, forgiving, loving, kind, anytime you rushed, you mad, you angry, you anxious, that is a sign for you to know that you are going against who you are. That's the sign. Step away, notice, take the breath, get out of the situation immediately, briefly, not leave, get in your car, just go for a walk, get a glass of water, do something to shift your state, because what is a state? A state is a feeling. Shift the feeling. And then you'll see, it'll get, the gap that was wide, you'll close that gap until you and your essence is one.
Okay.
Does that help?
No, that's brilliant. I know all of that. I just needed to get that reaffirmed back into my mind space. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Nikki.
There we go. You're so
Add something. I know not everybody wants to journal, but I find that when you journal and you're asking yourself, like, why am I feeling this anxiety around whatever it may be, or who am I showing up as today, or whatever the case may be, when you start writing those thoughts on paper, it's like something happens internally. It's like you're sorting through the unnecessary parts of you and creating an awareness around what actually matters. And that doesn't happen when you're just thinking. When you're thinking, you actually end up getting caught up in this hamster wheel of thoughts going, who am I? What do I want to do? Why am I feeling anxious? Whereas when you're writing, you're like, it's almost like the truth pops up on the paper where you're like, actually, this is an area that I need to work on. I need to work on my thoughts, or this is an area that I need to let go of, or this is something I need to forgive myself for, somebody else for. Whereas when you're just thinking, you're so trapped in the feeling that you actually can't get to the thinking, to the thoughts behind the thoughts.
So all I would add to that is that it seems like that takes work, but it actually takes a letting go. It takes this journey, 100% of this journey that you're on is 100% about letting go and 0% about getting anything. Really. And when you really, really hear that for the first time, like right now, you can feel that stillness. That's where it comes. And initially, journaling is fantastic. And you will progress or evolve into the space where you can just take the moment and journaling, do whatever you need to do, whatever works for you. And you'll get to the place where you can be like, oh, golly, look at that, eh? Going down that road again. No beating up, no stress, no strain. Oh, just human. Your humanness is showing up. In your innocence, you believed that before. Now you've woken up to the fact that that is not the truth. Yeah. Stunning. Lovely questions, Janine.
You told me last week to step out of your own way. When you step out of
Yeah.
your own way and you let it come through you and not from you, that's
Yeah.
when you
I think I said you've got to step out of your fucking way, if I'm not correct. If I'm not.
Sharon.
That's where you remember. Okay,
you,
anybody?
ladies. That was
Oh,
great. Thank you.
Lovely. Anyone else? Anyone got a question? Want to raise their hand? Anybody want to make a comment? Awesome. Wow. What a call. Nikki, it took a while and I know, you know, like, oh, am I ready? Am I ready? Oh my goodness, you were born ready. You really were. You just didn't realize it. And I just really loved all of your sharing. I think you've helped all of us today. You've reminded all of us today, you know, who we are and that this journey can be incredibly awesome. And even although you had that success, you've made the change and look where you are today. And I am so looking forward to just watching this journey of yours unfold so beautifully. I just get this surge of love for you every time I see something or read something about, you know, where you are, as I do for all of my clients. So really, really, it's been awesome. Is there something you'd like to say in closing?
No, just that if there are any of you considering coaching with Sharon, it will be the life-changing, the moment in your life that'll change forever, because you've just got such a graceful and beautiful, non-judgmental way of bringing out truth and speaking truth in love and opening people's eyes to their bullshit, like you call it, without making you feel like you've done something wrong, like you are judged, like you are inadequate in any way. In fact, every time I walk away from you, I walk away empowered and with an excitement and a joy in my heart. So this coaching around the 3 principles is the easiest, simplest form of living. and it was a gift that you gave to me. So thanks for that.
Thank you, Nicky. Very kind words. Thank you very much. Anyone else want to say something in closing? Okay, well, I'd love to, anytime, all of you are, you speaking to the converted. These are all clients, ex-clients, every single one of them, which is wonderful, so I just wish you all so well for the rest of this year, roll on 2021 with new, fresh perspectives, but be in the now for the rest of it. And let's just see what unfolds for us as a unit, as a community, as a group. And I just love all of your journeys, every single one of you. Yes, Janine, or Dee wants to say something.
Just from my side, maybe a little reminder about tomorrow's call with Kelly, and especially to share with anyone affected by mental health or their families and friends. I know it's going to be so powerful. So maybe you want to share a little about that.
Yeah, no, I'd love for you to hop on tomorrow night at 7:30. Kelly is a remarkable girl. I mean, I've read her book and I'm absolutely gobsmacked at what this girl went through and where she is today. And when I read it, there were certain highlights for me of people that I know, and I was like, wow, if they knew these things, they might go and get more help. She's gonna make her mark on the world. Hop on just to learn about what mental health is not and what it is for her now, and what it involves. So thanks, Dee. Yeah, beautiful.
One last question for Nicky before we go. Your book that you've published, what is the name of your book? Where is it?
It's called The Curated Life, and if you want to order one, you can order one from me at this stage. It's cheaper than ordering through Amazon and having it delivered here. So it's really a workbook type thing, just explaining my journey of where I was and how I came to be and how I curated the life that set my soul on fire and learned to stand in my truth.
Lovely, well done.
Stunning.
What an achievement, well done.
Still waiting for a signed copy, just saying. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so very much for being present here today. I'd love you all to unmute yourselves now and just, have a big group. Well done, Nicky, and goodbye. So, wow, Nicky, thank you so much.
Nicky, well done.
Awesome. Loved every minute. Yeah, thank you for being here, Darren, and for giving us your perspective and for your questions and your presence. And just love all of you for being here. Thank you so much. And
thanks, Sharon.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Cheers.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Okay.
Share.